Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for Dragon Ball Z, The Return of Cooler, the next year after Cooler's Revenge, the movie. I always get these two titles mixed up a lot of the time, so if I happen to mess it up in this video, well, forgive me. Anyway, Return of Cooler came out in 1992. It's about 45 minutes long, and let me tell you, this movie kicks so much ass. It's absolutely one of my favorites, easily in my top 5, probably in my top 3 Dragon Ball movies, easily. When I get around to that ranking video I plan on doing, this one's going to rank really, really high, because I love, like I've said in my review for Dragon Ball Z World's Strongest and kind of the Bardock review, I love when Dragon Ball Z takes science fiction elements and kind of mix them into the fantasy world that Dragon Ball Z exists in, where you have people with powers, people who can fly, robots, humanoid animals and shit that all live together, and even dinosaurs, you know. I love that about Dragon Ball Z, and I love when they bring in the sci-fi elements and do something really cool there. Dragon Ball Z The Return of Cooler does that as well. Somehow Cooler comes back, and Dende can sense that there's a threat on the planet Namek. Basically, there's this thing called the Big Getty Star that opens up and covers over New Namek after the Frieza saga, and it covers over it, and apparently there's some kind of invasion where these big-ass robots are taking the Namekians hostage for slavery, and possibly for other things too. Now, the Big Getty Star, we don't really know where it came from until later on in the movie. I don't want to tell you anything about that. I want you to go into this film knowing basically nothing. It's really worth your time. It's a phenomenal movie. I've seen it a million times. I have my VHS tape, just like I did with Lord Slug and Broly and so on, sitting right here in front of me as I talk about this movie. I love it. I think it is just incredibly great, and it's completely forgotten and never talked about by anybody I talk to, except for my friends. My childhood friends that I do keep in touch with sometimes will talk about how much they love this movie because of how crazy and wild and fun and funny it actually is. The humor and horror of this situation are greatly balanced. The tension, the fighting, the resolution of it is incredible. This is the first time we see Vegeta in a Dragon Ball Z movie, and it's badass. The way he and Goku have to team up is badass. But anyway, the plot generally revolves around Dende reaching out to Goku, and we never really see if he actually does that. But Goku and a lot of guys, I think Yajirobe, Master Roshi, I think is one of them. I've seen all of these pretty much back to back recently, so I might get some details mixed up on who's where, who's at this place. Because it's kind of one of those films like Broly, where a bunch of the cast went on a trip in this case to go see the new Namek, like Gohan too, with Goku. And I always forget who's there, who's not, like I said. So anyway, they go to New Namek to see kind of like just what it's like up there, and Dende reached out to Goku, supposedly, I guess, by the intro of the film. And when they get there, they realize everything's not okay when they see the Big Getty Star kind of sucking off of the Namekian planet in that weird gooey way that metallic monster looks. And when they get there, they fight the robots. They're not super easy to kill until they find a weakness, and then eventually, Goku looks over and sees who else but a metal-looking Cooler. He has metal for a body, and I think he even goes by the name Meta Cooler now, which was my personal favorite and still is my favorite version of Cooler. When I played Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 back in the day with my friends, a lot of the time would pick Cooler. He is so much more badass than people give him credit for. He's a great character, being the brother of Frieza, like I said in my previous review for Cooler's Revenge. He genuinely is a threat, and I love watching him do the things he does. He is so badass and kind of creepy in this movie when you get towards the third act of the movie. Now, the pacing of the film is phenomenal. It absolutely is. The fights are fantastic, and like I said, once Vegeta eventually shows up in the film, somehow, some way, he shows up and fights with Goku and Piccolo and everybody else, but when he and Goku team up, like I said earlier, that is the most boss moment of this movie. It's just fun from beginning to end. Again, the humor and stuff that happens with the side characters, like I think Oolong is in this movie too. He and Yajirobe and Gohan and Krillin trying to get away from the robots who want to use their body parts and stuff to kind of fuel the big Getty star. I assume that's also why the Namekians were being taken captive. If I remember correctly, they kind of outright say it. But Return of Cooler is just so different, and the animation style mixed in with this new sci-fi element of it, with all of the robotic moments of it. The big Getty star insides are kind of just endless hallways looking like the Death Star from Star Wars. Metal ceilings, metal floors, metal walls, everything. People like Piccolo having to fly through them and whatnot to try to get around as fast as they possibly can. This kind of has that ticking clock element and a countdown situation that makes it a little bit more frightening sometimes with how tense it can be. I think Return of Cooler, again, is underrated. It always has been, in my personal opinion. But it's unfairly forgotten as well because of how good it is. It just has so much to offer. It's a blast to watch. And it just really knows what it needs to do to hit that pacing perfectly. And again, by the end of it, if you don't have chills by the end of this movie, like I did, watching it every time I've ever seen it, I don't know what to tell you. When the trailers would come on, like, I think TV and on Dragon Ball Z VHS tapes and stuff when I was growing up, when I would see the trailers talking about this movie, it just really, really, really impressed me. And I can't tell you how bad I wanted to see this film. Just like when I would see trailers for, like, another film coming out very soon to review, History of Trunks, or Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan. Any of that stuff, and the trailers that were on some of these tapes were just shockingly great, and you just couldn't help yourself wanting to see them as soon as possible, as soon as they were available. And I tried. My grandmother tried at least to let me be able to see these things. But Return of Cooler, is just magnificent in every possible way that it could be. I recommend it so highly, even down to the soundtrack for the film. Oh my god, the soundtrack is just as good as ever. It looks like on the back of it you have, this is the beginning of that. This is the beginning of the not listing the soundtrack bands. They have a lot of stuff though, like Drowning Pool and whatever in this movie. A lot of 90s edgelord bands from grunge music and whatever, back when I was a kid that I had never heard of. There's a lot of really good bands in here, and the music just really can help with the atmosphere and the chilling of the fights. I love it. I absolutely love it. And even the end of the film, by the way, you've probably seen done before in other, I don't know, sci-fi movies and superhero movies and so on and so on. Even the solution and the way they resolve the situation, fighting Metacooler and figuring out what's going on with him, which, by the way, I love the story about Metacooler and what happened and how he exists at all. That's really fantastic. If you haven't seen this before, you should watch it just for that alone. But the way that Goku and Vegeta have to do what they do to solve the situation, you've seen it a million times. It's the way they did it here that just made it so different and so unique and so creepy, kind of. Anyway, Dragon Ball Z The Return of Cooler is a dark movie, and I love it. The animation style, the look of it, the art coloring is just perfect. The green skies on New Namek and all of that just add this kind of new setting that I really love so much about this movie. Again, I feel like it's completely forgotten. For all the wrong, unfair reasons in the world, of an unfair world, this film got the most lack of justice when it came to memory in the back of people's heads. Return of Cooler and Metacooler himself are badass, and they are fantastic, and I recommend the whole movie overall, for every reason you can possibly imagine. If you haven't seen Return of Cooler, for whatever reason, you need to see it. It's amazing. You'll love it. I promise. It's pretty much perfect, like Lord Slug and Broly 1. From beginning to end, essentially. So anyway, with all that being said, Dragon Ball Z The Return of Cooler is a magnificent film, and like I said, it's probably my top 3. Check it out. Let me know all your thoughts about this film and its previous movie, Cooler's Revenge, down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear everything you have to say about it. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.